for the premiere, and I really didn't know I was kind of going to do your show, because I didn't know if I'd have time before I fled off to London. But I wouldn't leave the country again without saying goodbye to you.
I know you wouldn't.
It was the golden era of American television. Every single night, over 15 million people tuned their dials to NBC for one reason.
The plant is a little weird. Here she is.
They wanted to see what Johnny Carson would do next. For 30 long years, Johnny was the undisputed king of late night. He could break a comedian's career with a single nod.
Well, actually, I never have done a nude,
nice.
And I sort of have made a statement, I guess, in the beginning of my career that I wasn't particularly interested in doing Playboy. I think they have enough candidates to fill the book.
Or reduce a politician to tears with a well-timed smirk.
The heart of New York City, Times Square, jammed, literally jammed with people.
He was smooth, confident, and absolutely nothing could shake him. Or so the public thought. Because behind that desk, there were specific nights where the unflappable Johnny Carson completely lost control of his own show.
Film called 100 Rifles in Spain with Jim Brown. And I'm looking forward to working with him.
Yeah.
He's quite a fantastic man.
It didn't happen because of a political scandal, and it didn't happen because a joke bombed. It happened the exact moment the curtains parted, the audience gasped, and the most mesmerizing women in Hollywood history walked down those legendary steps. Tonight, we are pulling back the curtain on the untold, behind-the-scenes reality of the icons who didn't just visit the Tonight Show couch. They completely conquered it. To truly understand how late-night television changed forever.
Yes, Betty.
Oh, well, I would like to say you look lovely, but unfortunately...
We have to travel back to the night of October 12th, 1967. The studio air conditioning was blasting. The band was playing its standard transition tune.
Well, that's pretty nice, thank you.
Yeah, I don't believe you at all.
You don't?
Yeah, you were, 4 years ago? You haven't been here for...
And Johnny looked down at his guest notes. He announced the next guest, a rising actress from San Diego. The audience expected a standard Hollywood starlet. Instead, out walked Jo Raquel Tejada, known to the world as Raquel Welch.
They say. I
Well,
guess they say
thank
that
you.
in England. I think it's quite
Yes,
smashing.
I'm getting a little long in the tooth right about now, so...
Oh, no, what does
nice
that
to hear
mean?
this.
The live studio audience didn't just clap. There was an audible, collective gasp that echoed through the studio microphones. Raquel walked out in a figure-hugging, custom-engineered dress that completely redefined what beauty meant in the 20th century. For years, Hollywood had been dominated by the classic, fragile blonde archetype. But the moment Raquel stepped onto that stage, her athletic, sun-kissed, brunette presence shattered the old mold in an instant.
I'm the old steadying influence.
Don't say old.
Older steadying influence.
Yes, slightly old.
Johnny Carson was a master of television, but for the first few minutes of that interview, he was completely disarmed.
Much else,
Well, I
did
know
you?
you have a daughter. No, I've...
He was staring at the woman who had just shocked the entire planet with a single publicity photo for the film 1 Million Years BC. That deerskin bikini poster had already become a global phenomenon, turning an obscure actress into the ultimate international sex symbol overnight.
I think it may be a horny elderly man.
But as Johnny began his standard, slightly flirtatious monologue questions, hoping to keep her in the role of the beautiful, quiet starlet, something unexpected happened. Raquel didn't just sit there and smile. She leaned in, looked Johnny dead in the eye, and matched his dry, sarcastic wit beat for beat. When Johnny playfully pushed the boundaries by asking about her daring wardrobe choices in her movies, Raquel didn't blush. She smiled warmly and delivered a line that would go down in late-night history. A dress, she told Johnny, should be tight enough to show you're a woman, but loose enough to show you're a lady. She said it with a subtle glance that left the king of late night temporarily speechless. The audience erupted. In that exact moment, Raquel Welch broke the unwritten rule of The Tonight Show. She proved that she wasn't just a visual masterpiece. She was the smartest, sharpest person in the room. Johnny was so captivated that he broke his own strict timing schedule, completely bypassing the commercial break just to keep her talking on the couch. But behind the glamorous television lights, Raquel's life was a masterclass in survival. Her path to that Tonight Show couch had been paved with intense struggle.
Cheap, but it's called Ritz, and it's like taboo, good girls don't wear it. And the other's real expensive, called
Raised by a strict Bolivian father who forced the family to suppress their Hispanic heritage to avoid American discrimination, Raquel spent her childhood fighting to be seen.
You're the first person to call me that in person, though. I'm sure they mutter that on the way out sometimes. What are we doing now?
She trained rigorously in classical ballet for 10 straight years, pouring her soul into the art, only to be brutally told by an instructor that she simply did not possess the ideal, fragile body type for a prima ballerina. Heartbroken but undefeated, she tried college, got married to her high school sweetheart, had 2 children, and quickly found herself divorced and working as a low-wage cocktail waitress and a local television weather forecaster just to buy groceries. Hollywood executives constantly told her she was too exotic, too intense, and too unconventional. Yet, every single time she returned to Johnny's couch throughout the 1970s, she projected an image of absolute, untouchable royalty. And when Hollywood tried to throw her away in 1982, with MGM firing her from the film cannery row under the insulting public claim that she was too old and difficult, Raquel didn't back down. The studio thought they could easily silence her, assuming an actress would fear being permanently blacklisted from the industry. They underestimated her entirely. She launched a massive breach of contract lawsuit against the studio giants, turning the corporate dispute into a highly publicized war. While the industry elite mocked her behind closed doors and predicted her permanent financial and professional ruin, Raquel fought relentlessly in court for years.
Yeah, well, okay, now, I know you have a bus to catch, so we'll,
She stood her ground against a barrage of high-powered corporate lawyers, ultimately winning a staggering $10.8 million verdict. This victory didn't just vindicate her. It sent shockwaves through the entire studio system. The next time she walked onto a late-night set, the dynamic had completely shifted. She wasn't just an icon of beauty. She was a symbol of absolute corporate defiance, a woman who had taken on the Hollywood machine and won on her own terms. Every subsequent appearance became a masterclass in media manipulation. Raquel knew exactly how the camera framed her, how the lighting hit her cheekbones, and precisely when to deliver a devastating punchline. Johnny Carson, who was accustomed to controlling the narrative of every single interview, found himself playing the straight man to her comedic timing. She would openly tease him about his multiple marriages, turning his own legendary late-night tropes against him. The audience loved every second because they were witnessing a rare phenomenon, a stunning icon who refused to be minimized or categorized by the host's standard charm. She laid the blueprint for every single modern female celebrity who demanded to be treated as an equal partner in the entertainment landscape. As the 1970s progressed, the cultural landscape shifted rapidly, setting the stage for a pop culture explosion the likes of which television had never seen. The era of the dark, mysterious cinematic icon was transitioning into an era of bright, accessible, high-energy modern stardom. Enter a young college student from Corpus Christi, Texas, who had traveled to Los Angeles for a single summer after a talent scout spotted her university yearbook picture. Her name was Farrah Fawcett. Before she ever filmed a single major television scene, a small poster company approached her for a quick photo shoot. Operating on pure instinct and with virtually no budget, Farrah did her own hair, applied her own makeup without a stylist, and posed in a simple, bright red one-piece swimsuit in her own backyard against a basic green blanket. That single image didn't just sell. It shattered every corporate record in existence, selling an unbelievable 12 million copies worldwide. It became the best-selling poster in human history, finding its way onto the bedroom walls of an entire generation. By the time May of 1977 arrived, Farrahmania had completely consumed the United States. Her feathered, sun-bleached hair was being copied by millions of women across the globe, and her starring role in Charlie's Angels made her the most famous face on Earth. When Farrah walked out to meet Johnny Carson that night, the energy in the studio was electric, reaching a fever pitch that was rarely seen even for major Hollywood movie stars. Johnny, recognizing the sheer scale of the phenomenon sitting next to him, immediately leaned over his desk, completely captured by her presence. In a moment of classic Carson humor, he reached out towards her famous hair, joking about whether her iconic hairstyle required its own separate zip code or a dedicated team of engineers just to maintain its gravity-defying structure. Farrah laughed effortlessly, her bright smile glowing under the heavy studio lights, creating what many consider the most visually iconic late-night interview of the entire decade. The chemistry between them was light, airy, and perfectly captured the optimistic energy of late 70s Americana. But while the cameras captured a picture-perfect moment of pure Hollywood magic, the reality behind the scenes was incredibly tense, bordering on a professional nightmare. That very week, Farrah was locked in a brutal, multi-million-dollar legal warfare that threatened to destroy her entire future. Exhausted by the brutal 12-hour workdays on Charlie's Angels, where she felt treated more like a piece of merchandise than a creative artist, and wanting to pursue serious, dramatic acting roles, she had made the terrifying decision to walk away from the hit show after just one single season. The show's incredibly powerful producer, Aaron Spelling, was furious at her departure. He launched a massive $7 million lawsuit against her for breach of contract, effectively trying to freeze her out of the entire entertainment industry. Industry insiders publicly warned her that her career was over, labeling her ungrateful, difficult, and predicting she would become a forgotten trivia question within a year. Sitting on Johnny's couch that night, Farrah was under immense corporate pressure. Network executives were watching her every move, waiting for any sign of weakness or a slip-up that they could use against her in the press. Yet, her appearance with Carson became her ultimate weapon. Johnny, balancing his role as a journalist and an entertainer, handled the interview masterfully. He asked about the intense public scrutiny and the looming legal drama, but he kept the atmosphere light and supportive, allowing Farrah to show the world that she was not just a passing trend or a passive poster on a wall. She was a poised, intelligent, and fiercely independent woman, handling an unprecedented storm of global fame. Years later, Farrah would completely stun the critics who had dismissed her as a mere swimsuit model or a manufactured television product. In 1984, she took a raw, unglamorous, and deeply challenging role in the groundbreaking television movie The Burning Bed. She shed her glamorous image entirely, delivering a searing, critically acclaimed performance as a victim of domestic abuse fighting for her survival. The performance earned her the first of 4 Emmy nominations, proving to the entire industry that the woman Johnny Carson joked with was a powerhouse dramatic actress of immense depth. She used the very platform of late-night stardom to launch a career defined by artistic risk, ultimately proving that her talent was just as enduring as her iconic image. While Raquel Welch brought elegant wit and Farrah Fawcett brought a sun-kissed phenomenon, there was one woman who arrived on The Tonight Show and completely rewrote the rules of what was legally allowed to be broadcast on American television. She was the goddess of pop, a regular presence who turned late night into her personal, high-fashion runway. Cher. By the mid-1970s, Cher was already a household name due to her music and previous television success. But her solo appearances on Johnny Carson's show became legendary for an entirely different reason. Alongside her legendary fashion collaborator, designer Bob Mackie, Cher decided that network television was entirely too safe, too boring, and far too conservative for the modern era. Every time Cher was announced as a guest, a wave of sheer panic swept through the NBC Standards and Practices department. In those days, network censors were incredibly strict, maintaining rigid rules about what could be shown on screen before the late-night hours. Censors would literally stand in the wings of the studio with clipboards and tape measures, frantically checking the fabric of her dresses, terrified that she was showing too much skin for a prime-time American audience. They feared that a single wardrobe malfunction would result in massive fines and national outrage. Johnny Carson, usually the absolute master of ceremonies who controlled every element of the broadcast, could only sit back and watch in utter fascination as Cher walked out, completely owning her individuality and ignoring the network's anxiety. In one famous 1975 episode where she served as the primary guest, her outfit was so historically daring, featuring intricate beadwork and an almost entirely exposed midriff, that the network's phone lines lit up with hundreds of calls from shocked viewers across the country. But Johnny loved every single second of it. He understood television better than anyone, and he knew that Cher brought something that money couldn't buy: pure, unadulterated star power that forced people to keep their eyes glued to the screen. Their banter was legendary because Cher treated Johnny not as an intimidating late-night host, but as an equal, frequently teasing him about his Midwestern sensibilities, his traditional values, and his conservative suits. She brought the radical, liberated energy of the 1970s counterculture straight to the heart of mainstream television, forcing late night to grow up and accept the changing tides of modern fashion and female empowerment. To understand the sheer fearlessness Cher displayed on that stage, one has to look back at her chaotic origins. Born Sherilyn Sarkeesian in El Centro, California, her early life was defined by extreme instability. Her father struggled with severe gambling and substance issues, leading to a cycle of frequent divorces and sudden financial ruin for her mother, Georgia Holt. Cher bounced between different schools, constantly feeling out of place and deeply insecure due to severe, undiagnosed dyslexia that made traditional learning nearly impossible. She dropped out of school at just 16 years old, packing a single bag to move to Los Angeles, taking up random gigs as a session singer, dancer, and waitress just to survive. She had spent her entire youth being told she didn't fit the standard mold of an American entertainer. So by the time she stood before Johnny Carson, network censors meant absolutely nothing to her. She had already survived the worst struggles the industry could throw at her, and she wore her Bob Mackie gowns like armor, signaling to every young woman watching that she would never conform to anyone else's expectations. What makes the legacy of these three extraordinary women so enduring isn't just the fact that they were breathtakingly beautiful during a specific window of time. In the decades that followed the golden era of The Tonight Show, the world saw thousands of beautiful faces come and go across the late-night landscape, only to be completely forgotten by the public the moment the next trend arrived. Raquel Welch, Farrah Fawcett, and Cher survived because they deeply understood the secret, often brutal mechanics of Hollywood fame. They entered an entertainment industry that was entirely run by men, designed from the top down to exploit their images, maximize corporate profits, and discard them the moment they aged or dared to speak out against the status quo. Yet, each of them found a brilliant way to take total control of their own narrative, turning their late-night visibility into permanent cultural power. Raquel Welch masterfully transformed her initial objectification into a multi-decade career as an award-winning actress, a major fitness and beauty entrepreneur, and a fierce, highly respected advocate for women's independence in corporate business. Farrah Fawcett fought through devastating industry lawsuits, intense media stalking, and constant public skepticism to leave behind a legacy as a serious, deeply dedicated actor and a courageous documentary filmmaker who chronicled her own final health battle to raise millions for cancer research. And Cher, completely defying every established rule of both the music and television industries, continued to score #1 Billboard singles across 6 consecutive decades, winning an Academy Award, a Grammy, and an Emmy along the way, becoming a permanent icon of global pop culture. When we look back at the old, grainy archival tapes of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, we aren't just looking at classic, nostalgic television history. We are looking at the exact moments when the cultural paradigm shifted. We are looking at the moments when these women looked directly into the lens of the camera, smiled past the limitations placed upon them by a conservative network, and cemented their names into the cultural fabric of the world forever. They were icons of an era of television that will never be replicated, proving to future generations that true, lasting beauty is ultimately found in absolute, unapologetic personal power.